We begin the conversation today with Nigeria's federal government on Thursday saying it had raised about 585 million naira towards the settlement of fines for inmates in a bid to decongest correctional centers across the country. The Minister of Interior, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, represented by an assistant director in the ministry, disclosed this on Thursday in Kano State during the release of 150 inmates whose fines were settled by the federal government. And of course, joining me to make sense of this is Ufeli, legal practitioner, Lagos, Nigeria, and also Da-Silva Johnson, President, National Interest Network, and also human enhancement practitioner from Abuja, Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining in.
It's a pleasure being with you.
All right, gentlemen, let me start off with Da-Silva. Now, Nigeria's Interior Minister had repeatedly lamented that no fewer than 4,000 inmates were languishing in detention over their inability to pay fines. What do you think is actually responsible for this?
Wow. If I may get your question right, is it responsible for inability to pay fine or responsible for the decongestion?
No. The amount of, the staggering amount of numbers that, of course, the ministry actually did dole out, about 4,000 inmates languishing in detention. I mean, for something as little as their inability to pay fines.
The question mark we are coming back to maybe later is the inability to pay fine and paying fine for what? But let's talk about the number, the inconsistency, or can I say staggering, like you said. Yes, the report says about 4,068, about 4,068. But if you take a look at it, like in 2001, the report says that we have capacity of 50,083. But the inmates, 70,056. That was the report as from correctional service, you know, in Nigeria, 2021. And also what prison brief, you know, says that we have capacity for 50,153, and then inmate 81,134. All right, so going by this, we all know that sometimes you might not have your data so accurate, but of course, there is a conclusion which almost everybody or every Nigerian will know, or anybody who is aware of what happens around that terrain, that yes, we have the congestion issue in our prisons called correctional centers. So, and then so many things can be responsible for it. If it is narrowed to the issue of not being able to pay fine, why are we not able to pay fine? The fine is for what? But I can tell you one-on-one, some of the causes of these things. So if you agree with me, those are the things to be corrected, not just fine. One of them is...
I'm sorry,
yes.
Da-Silva. I understand that fine, of course, is one of, the
Yes.
causes. Of course, we are going to break it down into some other specifics, which, of course, happens to do with a lag when it comes to the judicial process too and all of that. But, from your own perspective, let's take it by piecemeal. What are some of those factors you feel are also responsible outside fines?
Well, you have mentioned one, judiciary issue, delay of justice or delay of judgment. Those things can be responsible. And not only that, we have issue of the poor among these inmates, people without somebody, let me just put it that way, that may not be able to afford the legal fee that could help their defense on time, that can lead to their judgment, and then probably freedom or whatsoever. Now, that is just one out of it, and we have so many of that. Of course, people who are languishing in these places but lack help, especially from the judiciary aspect, and then from the legal practitioners. And apart from that, we also have the issue of judges who may not, or can I say undecided, or maybe so many things can be responsible for their inability to deliver, judgment on time, especially not only delivering on time, but to do it rightly. So they might be in between. If I do this, this is what the pressure is saying. This is the authority from the top. This and that. So that can lead to the abandonment of inmates in that place. You can bear me witness, there are cases where judges resign from their offices, even when the reason is not given. You can have insinuations. You can have silent thought. But somehow it happens. You see judges moving out, even though it's not up to time of retirement. Sometimes Nigerians or people believe it could be because of pressure. They can't handle the pressure. What do I do with this case? How do I go about it? We have so and so and so forth. So you have that as a factor that can be responsible for the congestion of our prisons, which is called correctional centers, and so on and so forth, and so many other issues. What about a case, even if you are talking about judges being ready, or probably the granting of bails? Now, the granting of bails is becoming an issue, where in the past you hear something like you are released, just make sure you are fined to so amount, drop to so amount. In the old days, you hear shillings and so on and so forth. All right, that is so minute in the currency of the nation. But now you have bail, conditions of you must have land in the FCT, you must have millions or trillions of naira that you have to deposit for you to be free. It depends on the case and who is involved. And you have this outrageous condition. I would call it outrageous. Sorry, I'm not a lawyer, but of course I'm a Nigerian. All right. So, but you hear this condition being given, and somebody is like, where do I start from? Maybe the condition is given. Is it based on judgment delivery? Is it based on the Constitution? Is it based on the condition for that offense? Or it is based on sentiment? Or it is based on assumption? This guy must have embezzled so amount, all this, all that, so he should be able to afford this. And it's possible that these people might not be able. Forget about those in the great seat or something like that, the high level of people. Let's even come down to people somebody who is accused of stealing a little amount, and then is charged so high that he has to be looking for the money. Until the money comes, of course, you remain in the prison.
All right, Da-Silva. I might just need to, of course, halt with you just for a bit to hear Evan's thoughts on all of this, particularly on this question. Evans, you're a legal practitioner. I would like you to approach this from a legal point of view. What are the, I call it, legal bottlenecks that many of these inmates encounter, such that we have a lot of people awaiting trial in prison?
Well, let me start. The first factor is that our prisons were built during the colonial era, where were less than 10 million as at the time those prisons were built. That is one. From the time of the colonial master up until now, our population have increased astronomically. The condition of life at that time was better. Crime was not on the rise because the economy was fairly doing well and all that. Today, crime is on the rise. There's a huge chunk of the population that are unemployed, which transmits to crime. And those factors are readily influencing the congestion in the prisons. That is one. Now, two, most non-custodian sentencing have been made custodian sentencing. What I mean is that where you have two fighting, for example, where a judge is supposed to just, convict for community service or some punishment or penalty.
I'm sorry, Evans, you used the phrase, you said two fighting. What does that mean?
Where two people are involved in a battle, in a conflict.
Okay. Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, for the benefit of viewers at home.
Hold on. Let me rephrase it this way.
Okay.
I don't know why that should distract us.
Okay.
Where the offense committed is a simple offense. A simple offense are minor issues for which the penalty should be a non-custodian penalty. What do you mean by non-custodian penalty is? You convict the person to either do community service, he goes home and comes from the house to continue every day until the time that is given for the sentence is exhausted, in which case he will not be in prison. He will not be in prison, constituting congestion. So if you go to appeal, you see a lot of awaited trial inmates who are not supposed to be in prison at all because their cases have not even been determined. They are in prison waiting for trial. So that in itself already overcrowds the prison. The magistrates and judges who are supposed to give non-custodial sentencing are making all their sentencing custodial, saying that the accused or the defendant will be remanded in prison. Defendant remanded in prison. Defendant remanded in prison. Even on offenses, on simple offenses where they could have just convicted them and asked them to do community service. So that's one of the reasons, again, that is making our prison to be congested. Okay, then there's also the issue of administrative inefficiency, where some persons have been arraigned before the court, they've been remanded to the prison, and their case is not ongoing. Their dates, it's either the prison warders or the court clerk have missed their dates for hearing. It's either their files are no longer in the prison, the files are missing, or something has happened to the circumstance such that they just discover that they no longer go to court and they are just trapped there in prisons across the country. There was a case I did some time ago. I took the defendant out of prison. He'd been there for 4 years, was arrested when he came into Lagos. He didn't have a place to stay. He decided to go sleep somewhere that night. The police raided the place. The night, took him, arraigned him the next day. His people do not know where he was. He was from Benue State. He came from Benue State, rather. His people didn't know where he was. After arraignment, he was never taken to court again until after 4 years. He was just in prison, adding to the number and the congestion. So when I stepped into the case, I had to get a production warrant to get him back to the courtroom. And I had to take the history of his case and made it known to the court before the matter was struck out, because the prosecution was not even available any longer to attend to that case. So that is just one person. We have multiple inmates that have the same case, that kind of case. Then the attorney generals of the state don't go often to the prison to release those who are awaiting trial or those who have one problem or the other. They don't go often. The governors don't visit prisons often, whereas they have the power and the rights of prerogative of mercy, while the attorney general of the state have the power to take over or discontinue criminal matters. So these powers are not exercised in favor of those who are in prison unjustly. If we exercise all these options, we have our prisons decongested. But if these options are there, we don't have it. And those who have been convicted, those who are, when you get to the prison, there's a section where you have condemned inmates, those who have been convicted. The governors of the respective state don't sign death warrant. They are not signing the death warrants. Whereas we have death penalty as an offense under our laws.
Why do you think some of the governors, or many of them, usually sort of, well, I call it dilly-dally, or are reluctant when it comes to signing, the death warrant?
Yeah, most of them see it like if they do that, they will have contributed to the demise of a citizen. Even though when these death warrants are signed, the inmates, they don't really get executed any longer, because apart from the fact that there's no hangman, as we speak, there's no hangman in Nigeria. The man who will put the rope in the neck of the defendant or the convicted citizen.
Why is that? Is it for religious reasons, or people just, don't want blood on their hands?
There have been vacancies. Nigerians who are looking for a job I've been told repeatedly to apply for that job. People are not applying for the job. They are not applying for that job, the job of a hangman, who will carry out the actual action of getting the person executed. So our judicial system, our criminal jurisprudence and judicial system need a lot of reform from arraignment, from arrest, from police arrest to arraignment to prosecution to trial to conviction to sentencing. There's a whole lot that should be done. A whole lot of persons are in prisons for no reason. We lawyers see this every day, and there's a number of cases like that for which you can take, because most of these cases are hopeless cases. The victims don't have money to pay. In this case I just told you about, I did it pro bono. I did it without collecting any money from anyone, whether the family, he didn't even know where his family, they didn't even know where he was.
All right.
So it was released.
Okay, so finance is also a factor. I would have loved to ask, which I'm still going to ask, in your opinion, do you also think, because it's also been a subject of debate, the issue of capital punishment, should it still be, a thing in the Nigerian constitution? But I would leave you to think on that, while, of course, I moved to Da-Silva on this one. Now, let's talk about the condition of some of these correctional centers. Now, it was renamed from prisons to correctional centers, which, of course, if you are to go by that name, it's meant to sort of reform the mindset of the inmates to be better citizens and all of that. But we know that the physical state of many of these correctional centers are complete eyesore. Why do you think that is? Is it for lack of funding, misappropriation of funds, or just absolute neglect?
Thank you, Dio. Like you rightly introduced me from the beginning, I'm from Human Enhancement Institute, and we believe so much in being practical, straightforward, okay? Let's start with the name you just mentioned, from Nigerian Prison Service to Nigerian Correctional Service. To me, I wish, of course, I really do wish that the intention of changing the name is being activated, and we can see it, just like you said, what the intention is possibly. But we have a way of thinking as well to believe that probably that name is being changed to suit the possible situations that is at hand in Nigeria. A case where you have less poor people, less masses going into prison, going into court cases and so on and so forth, especially on serious issues, and then probably the elite, okay? So, and then we live in a time where the elite, somebody goes into prison after serving as governor, after serving as senator, after this and that, and then return from prison and then show interest in politics, or probably return to politics and show interest and run for a particular seat and wins, okay? So, and our law is actually not in support. Like I said, I'm not a practicing lawyer. It's not in support of ex-convicts becoming a leader in our system, all right? So, but the name correctional appears to be suitable than to say prison. That's the only thing, because we are not seeing the intention announced to us to make it comfortable to correct lives, to do things that after prison experience, you can come back to society, the way it should be, especially when you are probably innocent, all right? So, but having said that, returning to probably your question in the name of maybe it is finance or maybe whatever, the situation I can tell you is bad. I once visited, not really prison, ordinary guard room. Yes, I also visited a prison. And you see the condition of these people and you pity them. But sometimes it is beyond money not being available. Sometimes we have budget, not sometimes, we have budget for the prison service or correctional center. Who are those implementing the budget? How are you seeing it? The food, those cooking for them, how? So they are there, they probably eat once a day or once in 2 days and eat what you call nonsense, all right? What you can't even present to an animal. These are the things going on. People are in charge. People are supposed to do the right thing. Even when government make the vote available, make the money available, how much is remaining on top to service these people? You might be sorry. You might be sorry. So this
Okay. Da-Silva, are you there?
Yes, I am with you, please.
Okay, so please continue. We lost you for a moment.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. So with that, you ask questions, the beddings and the way they should be, naked and so on and so forth. So you can't tie it just to probably there is no money and so on and so forth. But let me conclude by saying administration, just like the legal personnel has said, administration is important. Who are those responsible for the welfare? Who are those in charge of the cases? Who are those to bring it up? Is it kept in view? For how long should a case be kept in view? And so on and so forth. Like the person to be executed is not being executed. It's not released. It's just they are kept. All right? The governors are no longer going there. So series of reasons that you can actually list is responsible for this error, my brother. I will just say that. Let me just stop there. Yes.
All right. I would like to go back to you, of course, Evans. Now, on the issue of bail, which of course is a major factor, I mean, some of the bail conditions are usually pretty much astronomical. And there used to be this phrase, I don't know if it's still tenable anymore, that bail is free, right? What's your take on particularly the current issue as regards bail, and also your thoughts as regards capital punishment? Should it still be an item in the Nigerian constitution?
Yes, bail is free. In the courts, bail is free. It's the police that messes the issue of bail up, where they collect money and all that. But in the courts, the court is, if the offense is bailable, of which most of the offenses are bailable, the court will grant you bail. But a bail will come with a condition, okay? The condition of the bail is usually anchored on what it is that the court will use as a yardstick upon which they are granting you that leeway to go. You have to provide sureties, people who will be held responsible if the person jump bail. And then they have to also look into the issue of funds. The fund is not actually paid by the defendant, but it is paid by, the people if the defendant jumps bail. Okay, so that is what it is. And when you look at the other issue, the issue of, as stated, the second issue you talk about, capital offense. Capital offense is one thing I think we should drop. You understand? One thing I think we should drop. Yes, we have to drop it, because the reason we have to drop it is because we are not serious about how to use it. We are not ready to use it in the manner at which it is intended by law. The intention is that if you are going to keep capital punishment, you must ensure that you use it to the latter. And using it to the latter will mean what? If a person has been convicted to die by hanging, he should be committed to die by hanging. Okay? And the governors should not shy away from this. Part of their responsibilities. They took an oath to defend the Constitution, okay, to uphold the provisions of the law. Part of the provision of the law is that they have to sign death warrants, okay, of condemned criminals. So if they are not going to be signing, let us amend our criminal laws and take it out, so that we can now have maybe life imprisonment, okay? So they can convert all murder offenses to life imprisonment. So if we do it that way, we will have a very good condition to deal with. But in a case where we want to retain it in our laws and we're not ready to discharge the terms and the conditions of that, that is not good enough. It's not good enough. There are countries where there have been heavy debates on whether or not they should leave it. And when they threw it to a referendum, some countries have taken it off, taken it out. Some countries have retained it and they ensure that they enforce it. Some countries like Nigeria have retained it and they are unable to enforce it. That's why the prisons are congested. Why do you want to, the offenses, even the offenses that are now punishable by death, they have increased now. Because remember, kidnapping was not even an offense under our laws before, up until recently, 2012, between 2010 and 2012, okay? And because you are having layers of offenses for which the penalty is now death by hanging, you are now having more inmates that have gone through trial that have been convicted to die by hanging.
So you have them just on death row, but I'm waiting for okay.
They're all there in the prison. In fact, in the prison, there's a section that's meant for them, condemned, people that have been condemned. And they live every day under that condition. They are traumatized. Most of the time, they don't even have anyone to bring food, medication for them. Some of them die under that condition in the prisons. Okay, so the conditions of service is very, very...
All right.
I would like you to also share your light towards prison warders. Prison warders in Nigeria, they are another menace.
Okay.
If you go into the conduct of prison warders in Nigeria, we will not leave this place today.
Can you just maybe in 30 seconds some disturbing issues or scenarios that you have experienced or even treated or handled? You might just want to take us through some of them in 30 seconds.
Recently the service chief came before the House of the plenary. The service chief came to explain how warders, used to connive with some Boko Haram members in the prison, to smuggle in items and to take out items. Operations of criminals. The prison warders, they feed fat on criminal activities between inmates and the outside. And sometimes they help the inmate inside to secure a criminal activity arrangement outside. And the army chief was very emphatic about that issue. And it's proven in our system. There's a case I dealt with. I was in the prison, the maximum prison in Lagos. So I see a client of mine that's in detention. There was an NGO that came to the prison that brought food to distribute to, inmates. Okay.
All right.
It was discovered that one of the warders took part of the food that was meant for inmates, took it, stole it. Okay. So you ask yourself, who needs reformation? Who needs correction? Is it the inmates or the warder?
This, of course, is really, really disturbing, at the same time pretty much interesting. But on this particular topic, this is where, of course, we draw the curtains. But gentlemen, thank you so much. Evans Ufeli, legal practitioner from Lagos, Nigeria, and also Da-Silva O. Johnson, President, National Interest Network and Human Enhancement practitioner from Abuja, Nigeria. Gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for your time.
I wish you still let our people know that if you are judging any case or you are whatever you are doing, make sure that the truth is worked upon. People shouldn't be condemned innocently.
All right. Really, really important. Thank you so much.